the day we start to worry about our future is the day our childhood dies. I think what I've always said is my first drug of choice was fantasy. I started like reading a lot of books, but it's what I had for a source of entertainment and escape, because reality was too hard. It was too difficult. Watching my mom cry all the time, the fighting, the instability, the lack of connection and attunement with my mother.
I was in and out of recovery for 10 years prior. And then one person said their story and I heard it and my life changed.
And then when it ended with heroin, and I realized like I can no longer say I haven't done hard drugs. Like I'm in addiction. That first year I laid the groundwork for my recovery. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I was no longer chained to addiction, but I was chained to the floor of the 12-step program. And my sponsor at the time, he challenged me to unchain myself.
The best way to describe it is just there's two brains. And one of them is leading you to a decision, and the other one is trying to tell you not to do that, but it gets shut out. I mean, it's the closest thing to possession that I could explain to somebody.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson.
Welcome to Powerful Beyond Measure, a podcast about radical transformation, gritty stories, and the undeniable power of second chances. I'm your host, Matt Culp, a man in long-term recovery who believes in the power of grace, grit, and growth. Each week, we sit down with real people who've overcome real struggles, from addiction to adversity. No fluff, no filters, just truth, healing, and hope. And the truth is, you are powerful beyond measure, and it's time you knew it. Today's guest is Kerrigan. So pretty much what we do is, really like to get your testimony, like where you grew up, how old are you, kind of your back history, your family stuff, and then pretty much like what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And then I'll kind of have questions in between there. And then like if something cues me or if I want to like go deeper, and then kind of afterwards we'll kind of go into like, well, what's recovery like now? Kind of spitball like what's it like for you, and kind of go back and forth. Cool.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on. I'm Kerrigan. So I'm 29 years old, just turned 29. I was born up in New Hampshire, but I moved to Old Hickory, Nashville when I was a kid. Lived around the South most of my life, and ended up in Gadsden, Alabama through high school, and then moved back to Tennessee after high school. So I've lived
Back in Old Hickory?
Yeah, but between Old Hickory and then back to Murfreesboro, there was about 18 different places I lived between there. And I'm sure we'll get into that as I talk, because there's a couple things that came from that as well. But I guess just to jump right into it, I grew up in a really conservative household. We were Seventh-day Adventist. My father was a minister when I was a baby. I don't remember hearing him preach, but I've got some old cassettes that I've listened to from like 1996 and 97 when I was born, and then when I was a little kid. And what's interesting, and I'll touch on this later too, is that I didn't really grow up around my dad that much. I saw him intermittently after the divorce when I was around 7, but when I listened to his pastoral tapes, and then I listen to, I do some teaching occasionally, and I taught a lot last year at Recovery Church in Murfreesboro. We used the same vernacular, like same cadence in how we speak. So it was really cool when I heard those tapes. But my parents were kind of.
Is he like a teacher? Like, you know, like there's some people that are like charismatic.
Yeah.
There's some people that teachers. You know, he's a teacher.
He was very much a teacher.
Cool.
He was very much a pragmatic guy.
Yeah.
And I love listening to him talk because that's how I like to talk too. It's very like pragmatic.
Yeah, me too.
And I've never been like, I've tried, you know how sometimes, I don't know if you've ever tried this, like when you're teaching or talking to people, like I'm going to try something new. Let me step into that charismatic little, doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. It's got to be natural. And so, yeah, growing up, I used to joke around when I was a preteen, say I had a drug problem. I was drugged to church every day of the week. The irony isn't lost on me on that one. But we were really, really involved in the church and kind of the model family. From the outside looking in, everything was wonderful. I mean, those were like my most treasured memories is when I was a kid. We were homeschooled. There was 4 of us at the time, all best friends with each other. And I mean, I don't remember ever feeling anxious or scared, like loved those years. And then
Brothers?
yeah, I have 2 now. Yeah, I had a brother that came about 10, 11 years later.
Okay.
And then I've got one older brother and then 2 older sisters. The eldest is about 6 years older than me. And then my other sister's like not even 2 years. So we grew up really close. And my mom sat us down after me seeing my parents argue for like the first time, but they evidently had been arguing for a while, and told me this new word called divorce. And I had no idea what it was, what it meant. But all I knew, like something really felt wrong about that.
How old were you?
I think I was 7. Yeah, I think I was 7 or 8.
Same for me.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that. That's a
Sucks,
tough time.
Yeah.
There's never an easy time.
You know what's weird is the same situation where like one argument, then the divorce. And like, that's probably not what was really going on. You know, I'm 7, so you don't really correlate what's going on. And like, what did I block out? What did I not block out? What was behind closed? You know, like in your family, it might have been more closed sounds, maybe behind closed doors.
Yeah.
My family, they're not really behind closed doors. So like, I really just remembered one argument, but I mean, it had been going on for a long time. You know, it had to be, you know?
Had to be. I mean, they were probably fighting in the closet, you know, fighting while we were gone. I had no idea. They hid it well. My siblings might have a different story or a different take on it.
Yeah.
Most of them don't really remember. For some reason, I've got like an elephant memory when it comes to the childhood, though. Like I'm the keeper of all the memories. For whatever reason, I've got like crystal clear memory when I was a kid, but I can't tell you what I had for breakfast yesterday. But yeah, they told us this word and then explained what it meant. We'd be moving out of the house. We love that house. Mount Vernon Drive. Old Tech. I love that home. Like one day I want to go back and buy that house. And Dad would be living somewhere else, and then Mom would be living somewhere else. And explaining that custody piece and what that meant, you know, I probably took it the hardest. And I remember in that moment, like something kind of shifted in my mind, like the introduction to the world and sin and kind of the brokenness. It probably started there. There's a quote by one of my favorite fiction authors. I love fiction, love medieval fiction. I just chew up medieval fiction books. I'm just a hardcore nerd when it comes to that. But there's a quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, by Patrick Rothfuss, but he's like, the day we start to worry about our future is the day our childhood dies. Something along those lines.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's kind of the time where I was like, well, wait, when am I going to see Dad? When am I going to see, are you guys going to work? And I started to worry. And so they split, and it was messy. It always is, especially with 4 kids. Dad tried to stay involved. I'm not going to speak for the facts of that part because I all I've heard is their stories. I don't know what actually happened between them, but I do know the fact was that where I lived became pretty unstable, and I didn't see Dad that much over the years, and it kind of became less and less. And I know there's reasons for that, but those are just kind of the facts of what I saw. And yeah, I kind of flipped from one end of the pendulum of a lifestyle. Like, we weren't allowed to watch 99% of television. Like, the Teletubbies had too much magic in it. Like, that was kind of the line that they drew. And
who was the hard liner? Was it Dad or Mom?
I don't know. I think they were on the same page. It was very much a Seventh-day Adventist way of life.
But why did it change afterwards,
I think they just caution to the wind. The divorce was
too much.
I think it was just too much. They lost steam, and they were both. My mother was in full survivor mode.
Yeah.
She was just like, all right, I'm going to leave the rest up to God. I've just got to keep everyone alive. And I don't fault her for it. But she remarried.
Aren't we all doing everything to survive?
100%. Yeah. Best we can. And I think as I get older, I have more and more grace for my parents.
Yeah.
Because like now I'm the same age that my dad was when he had 4 kids.
I'm the same age my dad was when he divorced.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
My son's the same age that I was when we divorced. I'm going through divorce. Same thing. 2 or 3 years ago, I went through this situation where we were going to get divorced. The word came up the first time. Second time it came up, I said, don't ever say it again. If you say it again, quit bringing it into our marriage, And it came again. I said, let's go to the courthouse. I went to Home Depot to wait on her to come to town. And I had this visceral reaction. I just couldn't leave my son, couldn't do it. But one thing I realized recently, and I'm okay with it, is I'm not my father. He's not me, and how I handle it doesn't have to be the same. And it doesn't have to be the same outcome, I wanted to bring up that there's this clinical article that my therapist pointed me to, but confusion during a divorce is the main factor. It's not
like for the kid?
For the kid,
yeah.
It's the confusion.
Yeah.
Where are you living? Where are you staying? Where are you going? My parents just divorced. I don't know where the future's going. I don't know what's going on in my life. It's the confusion. And like, it's so hard, even with me knowing that, it's really hard to navigate like clarity with. The only thing that I can like be clear on, is that I'm not going anywhere, and that like that I love him no matter what, But, and I think that's enough, where I was bombarded into the divorce, It was like a weird situation where I was entangled in it,
Yeah.
So it sounds like yours was maybe a little different. I don't know.
I was more of a witness to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. They entangled me.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. More confusion.
More on that later because my mom got remarried.
Oh.
So, but yeah, I mean, enmeshment and triangulation, all these kind of clinical terms that I learned later, real thing in a lot of families.
It's hard as an adult to like, let's say the child comes in and says, so-and-so said so-and-so, and you go, well, that's not, I want to say it's not true. But,
Yeah.
I want to defend myself. But
Yeah.
it's just like, I can't, It's not,
Did you learn a lot of lessons? Like you mentioned, I'm not my father.
Yeah.
Are you taking those and saying, hey, I'm going to do
different?
this different?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was trying to survive too, and I have grace over the situation, but, yeah, it's helped me navigate it for sure because I don't involve like personal information around, what's going on with us. I'm trying to stay very clear on terms of what is going on. And just knowing that I'm not going anywhere and that I love him, it has nothing to do with him, My daughter, on the other hand, I think she feels it's her fault, kind of. Yeah, and that's a lot to.
How old is she?
She's 13.
Yeah, that's tough.
She's kind of, you can tell somebody something over and over, but, they have to work through that stuff on their own,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry you went through that. Sorry
Yeah.
my kids are going through it, I'm sorry I went through it. Yeah. It seems like oh, my parents got divorced. It's like, it seems like not a huge thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the reality of the world, but it is crippling at 7 years old, you know?
Yeah, it's a setback. I think, I look back and I'm like, if everything didn't happen the way it did, I wouldn't be who I am. And so I always am grateful to God for every piece of it, despite the breaking and the tearing and the heartbreak and the everything that happened. I can still at least say it shaped me to who I am today.
Yeah.
But we can play the whole who would I have been and what would have happened all day. I do know that it's not something I want to repeat, of course. And we live in a broken world and we don't know what's around the corner for us. But we can still learn the lessons from our parents. And I think every generation wants to blame problems on the generation before it. But we've just got to take, I've got so many tools now because of recovery
Yeah.
that like I don't have much of an excuse to stick to my guns, and walk the path that is pretty clearly laid.
I think, well, when someone says they read an article, they watch a TikTok, but
I just
pretty much,
I was reading the other day.
I read the article. They said this is like the first generation that is like interested in breaking generational curses.
Really?
Yeah, like if you think about it, there was just not that much awareness in, let's say, the 80s, 50s, 40s, 20s. I mean, they survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the 20s, 30s,
Where,
and 40s.
where now, I mean, we're surviving, but it seems that we're more aware of, oh, that's what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
Like PTSD was like a new term that came in the past, like 100 years. Like how long have people had PTSD?
Correct, yeah.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about this generation being the one to be aware of that.
I don't know if we'll break it, but I think that we're aware. Because
We're the first step generation. Just a lot of
think so.
awareness of
Yeah.
what was going on.
I think we'll probably overdo it based on like
Yeah.
younger kids, 20-year-olds. They seem to, from what I've gathered, they've kind of overshot the mark a little bit, like a little bit. Like, I don't want to work. It's just, I'm just not feeling it right now. Yeah, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I just don't want to feed this capitalistic society. Well,
I mean,
we need positive GDP growth in this country. Somebody's got to work.
You have to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, trauma and identity is a real thing.
Yeah.
And we have overcorrected in some areas.
I think we'll figure it out.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's a balance that I've still got to walk because I overcorrected in my first couple of years in recovery with very, very feelings and in tune with my trauma and all this stuff because I was learning all this and it became like I overcorrected. I thought about it too much. It became too. I wasn't tapping into life to the fullest. And then I overcorrected the other way and like strongmanned too much of ignoring, things like the inner child voice and sensitivities and vulnerabilities and just kind of started shutting some of that out. And it's like, good luck getting better without addressing some of that stuff. It's something I have to look at.
Yeah.
But then if you overcorrect, you end up in a victim state where you're just constantly trying to deal with your traumas and not living life. So I've dealt with both.
I have too. Yeah. Mine's opposite, but the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I'm thinking, am I overcorrecting?
Yeah. What state am I in right now?
Yeah. I mean, the first 6 years, I was so spiritually rigid. I mean, all spiritual terms were very new for me. And, but I was not like aware of inner child trauma. I was very like, well, what's the solution?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the more I became aware of the trauma, the inner child stuff, all that, being in therapy. I've been in therapy for 4 or 5 years. I mean, I've been in therapy my whole life, but really heavy for the past 4 or 5 years. And like the more aware I become, the more aware I become. And I'm like, dang, I have to deal with it.
Let me ask you, when I've been in and out of therapy, but I've always done it on kind of a problem base.
Okay.
My problems don't ever end, right? But it's like kind of critical area of like I need
like
specialty help.
triage.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what do you get from therapy that's different than like peer support and sponsorship? Like, and where's the overlap?
Well, I have a sponsor. What I get from him is, I mean, he's not, I'll clear it up. Like, he's not my therapist. He's not my marriage counselor. He's none of that. He is pretty much always going to point me, Matt, you're running your life again.
Yeah. Point back to you.
Yeah. Are you trusting God? Have you did the inventory? You know, have you let it go? Are you still holding on to it? Are you still trying to control? You know, that stuff. Versus, and recently, like, I worked steps on like anger. I worked the 12 steps on anger, which was a different experience. But with a therapist, I do this. I have like a constant therapist, and then I go do other therapy, like other triage stuff. So like I have a constant therapist that has like rapport. And then like I'm about to go do somatic therapy, which is something different. But
what is that?
Somatic therapy is the best way to explain it is instead of treating yourself from brain down, it's treating from body up. So
body keeps the score, sort of thing.
It's kind of it's releasing stuff this way. And there's different ways to do it. Like EMDRs is somatic kind of.
Okay, I've done a little bit of that.
They do like weird stuff. Like I've done like martial arts could be somatic therapy. Like you hit these sticks together, and then like you're getting in your body. Pretty much. There's different ways to do it. Like you could do stretching. You could do all different types of stuff. But just body to mind instead of mind to body. But to answer your question is like, I'm in emotionally focused therapy, EFT, right now. So I think for a guy that was as rigid as me in early recovery and being a man in general. One, I was a boy when I got into recovery. I became a man in recovery.
How old were you?
24.
Yeah.
So I became a man in recovery, and sometimes becoming a man is, especially early manhood, is like I over E, like intellect over emotion, you know? Like, well, I used to be like, I don't feel like going to work, versus it doesn't really matter what I feel.
Yeah.
Or I don't feel like doing the steps, and I don't want to get a sponsor because I'm special. Who cares about you're special? Just do the work. So like there was like a lot of that going on. I mean, the first time my first sponsor ever set me down, he had said, I'm not your doctor, I'm not your therapist, and I don't give a about your feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings aren't facts, you know? And I really like adhered to that. So trying to dig myself out of that and like be in tune with other feelings and be like, well, how do I feel today? Am I lonely today? Am I sad today? Am I glad? Am I in grief? Do I have shame? You know, like what are these things and how do I navigate these? And like, why don't I have them? Or why am I experiencing them? Is it because EFT is kind of different? It's like emotionally focused. Like it's because like, well, what am I not getting? What do I need in this situation? So like, really, it's been kind of hard for me to be like, even with the stuff on the, like he has like stuff on the table, like feelings and needs. Like, what do you need in this situation, Matt? Well, I need to feel like I belong or I matter. Well, what are you feeling? Well, I feel lonely, you know, like, but if you asked me 2 years ago, what's going on? I would go, I'm fine.
Doesn't matter. This is what I got to do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I get it.
At treatment, my ex-wife used to work at Journey Pure, and all the people that were in recovery, this is stated from her, so secondhand information, but like they would do Monday morning meeting or whatever, you know, Thursday morning meeting, and all the people, staff would be there. And they would set all their phones down and all the, you know, whatever, and then they would do check-ins. All the drug addicts or alcoholics, every time they would do a feelings check-in, they would say, I'm fine. And they would go, fine's not a feeling. All of them would, you know, they don't even know. They go, well, I'm content. Yeah. They don't even know what's happening to them. Yeah. So like being aware of those things and being able to navigate those things.
When I first got married, it was actually before we got married. I got my
I
wife.
didn't know you were married.
Yeah, I got married
Last year?
Last year.
Okay, yeah,
last October. We eloped, so it happened kind of quick.
Okay.
But I got a gift of a feeling wheel in the
Great.
shape of like a pillowcase, because we ran into some of that too. You know, to where it's like, all right, well, where does that land here? Like, how are we doing? But I think to your point about
Because you lacked, or because you were all over it all the time?
well, she had a different background than me, right? The irony of us even being together isn't lost on me, of how opposite kind of our worlds are. And, you know, I grew up in Narcotics Anonymous. I got clean at 19. This was my way of life, and I adopted it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much you learn about emotional intelligence after you've been in it
I know.
for so long.
Sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I don't say that from a sense of like everyone else is not emotionally intelligent. I know a lot of emotionally intelligent people that haven't worked the steps, but all of them have gone through something hard and have had to recover from it in some way. And I also know some really sharp people who have lived just pretty normal lives, but I think the majority have gone through something that have forced them to say, what is this feeling that's making me act this way, or what have you? And yeah, I think, you know, to your point about like being a guy in general, in the young man especially, you know, the I over E is the more natural route.
I don't know, dude. Not with people that were recovering.
Yeah.
Like, I spend a lot of times as a sponsor.
I guess, am I using that properly when I say intellect over emotion? Like
You are.
brain over. Okay. All right.
But it seems that men that are drug addicts or alcoholics operate a lot in feeling. You know, I didn't feel like doing my chore. I don't want to live there. I don't want to do this. This person, you know, I don't want to go to work. You know, they're just kind of king baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
You know, so I spend a lot of time as a sponsor trying to dig them out, which I think is kind of smart because they're so emotionally just driven.
Yeah.
At first.
Yeah.
I think the correct route, even though it sucks to dig yourself out, I think the correct route is to make them man up and then get in tune with.
I've seen that too, because I like to sponsor younger guys because I've got just a lot of experience in what they're going through at that age, and I can recall it pretty well right now. I think I ended up overcorrecting, I think, at like 8 or 9 years clean, where I was like intellect over. And it happened around when, you know, I got married. It was like so many emotions that I hadn't experienced. It was like I was experiencing my first year in recovery all over again, because it was totally new for me. And I flipped back to intellect over emotion and shut a lot of stuff down. And now I'm kind of undoing some of that.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of in the thick of that right now, figuring out.
I think it's probably the responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, I got to be a man. I have to be present. I have to be secure for this person. I have to show up, you know? Mm-hmm. And like, for me, like, that happened prior to me being married. It happened when I got my daughter. I think that might have been the onset. You know, like, nobody's going to take care of her beside me, you know? And they don't want to hear my daughter, my wife, ex-wife, my girlfriend at the time. She don't want to hear, I don't feel like doing it. You don't want to hear she wants me to provide and make her feel secure, you know? So I overcorrected probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got no idea the lessons I'm learning right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I got to remain, I think I'm grateful for my first couple years in recovery, because I can look back on those and be like, man, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And most of the lessons I've learned, I don't even realize I've learned them until years later. And so I think I'm becoming more open-handed in this process of marriage, because I'm a perfectionist, and I want to do things exceptionally well. I want to be an exceptional husband. I want to have mastery over husbandhood, whatever that looks like. I want to do the reps, and like, man, I'm a newcomer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad I've done some pre-work in some areas, but marriage is just, it's a different ball game. And it is, and you know this too, like dating's one thing. Marriage is different. You can intertwine your finances and stuff when you're in a relationship and not married. But once you step into marriage, like you have agreed to just mash two lives together.
Yeah, marriage changed me.
Yeah, I'm a different man and I'm only a year in, so I can't imagine.
I don't know how to do the other, like, I relate it to like I think it's Mustang or Stallion is like a horse that is not broke yet. I don't know which one. I'm not a rancher.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But like, I was just kind of like wild and, just out there, like running, And then when I became married and in that situation, I just broke, into that mold, And I want to be the best husband. And I want to be like, I want to do the reps. I want to become the best version of myself to be the best husband and the best father I can be. But then the divorce is happening, and like, I'm just like, do I run again? Yeah. Like, do I know how?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I just feel like I'm in an area of life where I'm stumbling and I don't know how to do it. And, almost like I cut my leg, or I'm like, cut my legs off, or I'm like, just don't know how to walk anymore. Yeah. And I've accepted like some grace with me and God. It's like, it's been hard. It's like, I'm going to mess this up, and I haven't messed too much stuff up in my life since I've been sober. And, I just have this feeling of like that I just don't know what I'm doing out here, and I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay with God, and I'm not going to use or drink, but I'm probably going to mess this up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I was running so long, and now I don't even know what it's like out here,
Now you're going to be in recovery for this for a while.
That's right. Yeah.
Probably experiencing the same newcomer feelings.
Yes. My friend told me right before I did this thing, he said, you got to quit drinking, dude. And I was like, God bless. Yeah. Cause it's just like a return, and just, it's so hard to untether. And 10 years is a long time, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It's rough.
Yeah, I really can't imagine.
It's different.
Going through that.
It's worse. It's worse than drugs. Coming off drugs. It's harder to grieve than somebody dying. It's weird because you're grieving someone. And you also see them in the pickup line at the school. You're also having to communicate with them over co-parenting, but they're not passed away.
Yeah.
It's weird.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
And my mother shared some of that grief with me.
How did she do with, let's move, this is probably a good segue, like what happened into her getting a new husband, stepdad?
Well, her next marriage fell apart pretty quick. She kind of got deceived by the guy she married. I think he just presented himself to be a man he wasn't. Ex-detective, had a lot of baggage, came from a really broken family. He was from Monte. I don't know if you're familiar with that area.
Very familiar.
It was pretty different, 15, 20 years ago than it is now. They still got some rough areas, but it was pretty rough. And we lived in Murfreesboro for a short stint, and then we moved to the mountain. And
I used to do a lot of drugs up there about 10, 15 years ago.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
And that's when the pendulum just swung. And
when y'all moved.
When we moved.
Yeah.
Because that's when his true colors started to come out.
Yeah.
My mom's fear and illness started to snowball. She hadn't even begun to process the divorce.
Really?
But as a survivor, which I got to give a lot of credit to my mother. She's definitely two things. She's a survivor first and foremost, and a protector of her kids, and then underneath all that is a prayer warrior too. In hindsight, there's a lot I wish I would have learned and been taught and given by my parents, But that woman taught me how to pray every night. No matter what we were going through, lifestyle that the family had, she taught us how to pray. I'll always be grateful for that.
That's
Every
awesome.
night she said, "Good night, I love you, Jesus loves you." And I'd say, "Good night, Mom, I love you, Jesus loves you." We said it every night and prayed together every night, no matter what was going on. So that lifestyle that we ended up in Monte was like, I didn't even have context for that type of violence. I didn't have context for, these guys making, like, part of the family I was in, there was like uncles and cousins that were making moonshine. I don't know what else they were making, fighting dogs, stealing. I saw violence, like just things I hadn't even seen a movie.
Mountain shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hillbilly stuff. Like I listen to like Theo Vaughn sometimes talk about where he's from, and I'm like, no, I know people like that. And we spent about 4 or 5 years in that. And there's a lot of trauma, big T stuff that came out of that I never wanted to admit was big T trauma. I didn't want to admit it impacted me. But it did.
Gage talks a lot about intent over impact. I mean, was the intent to hurt you?
By who?
Whoever
No.
No.
I mean, there was one really sick individual that I won't get into that did a number in he was just sick and just, he had his own sickness.
But all the other stuff was...
But all the other stuff was just, I was a witness to a lot of it. And, they fought a lot. They got into physical altercations. My mom, my stepdad. My mom ended up having another kid with him, my little brother who lives here now. And my stepdad had MS, and he ended up dying. He died 5 or 6 years ago, I think. But he was starting to decay when they decided to get divorced, which they should have called it. It was just, it would have saved everybody a lot of pain if they would have just called it within the first couple months. But we ended up moving.
She's trying to survive.
Survivor. I mean, man, in hindsight with 4 kids, I don't blame her for what she needed income, and like, good luck finding daycare for 4 kids when you don't have any family around.
That's $2,000 a month. Well, maybe not the end, but
any money she would make would only pay for daycare. And so she needed somebody to help support. And I think she did want companionship and love. I don't think she just, it's like, he didn't even have, he definitely didn't provide much for us, but she was doing what she could to keep everybody afloat.
Did he drink or anything like that?
I don't know. I never saw him consume. I know he did drink liquor, but I don't know if he was like drunk a lot. I didn't have much context for that, so I don't know. But there was, just a lot of he tried to kill himself a couple times, blew his shoulder off with a shotgun, and just like, he had a lot of sickness. So we left Monteagle, and we were in this like weird in between in Georgia. We moved a few houses. My mom she would date some people, and then we ended up moving to Alabama because she met somebody that was a lot more secure, and they fell in love. And that was probably the most stability I had in a while was when I lived in Gadsden, Alabama. So I started public schooling for the first time in the 8th grade. Now, I had been in and out of like public school as we moved, but the first full year of public school was the 8th grade. So you can imagine a kid coming from homeschool background, witnessing everything I witnessed, had this fear and anxiety I'm carrying with me. I'm not going to jump right into normal social circles. And I think what I've always said is my first drug of choice was fantasy. And it started around like when we lived in Monteagle. I started like reading a lot of books. I could just like absorb myself into fiction novels. And I still can do that, but like I have better mechanisms now to where I know when to put the book down, and I have a full life to live, so I don't make a lot of time for that now. But man, I could read for 8 hours.
What?
I'm not kidding. Forget to get up and go to the bathroom. I could stay there. I remember staying up till 3, 4 a.m.
Dude, reading sounds like work to me.
Yeah, it does for most people. But it's what I had for a source of entertainment and escape, because reality was too hard. It was too difficult. Watching my mom cry all the time, the fighting, the instability, the lack of connection and attunement with my mother.
Were you aware of that? That you were isolating into fantasy?
Not at the time. I had no idea. I didn't know that until probably after I got clean, that's what was happening. And then I found like computer games, RuneScape was one.
People don't hate on reading. You know, like say I binge out on like Netflix. People like, you're isolating.
Yeah.
You know, but nobody's ever like, you're isolating in that book.
Yeah. That's not common. It's not a common advice. But it feeds into like the fantasy, because fantasy is just like intoxicating for me. And it definitely was at the time. What's a funny side note, the byproduct of that weird little addiction was I was a really young kid using really big words.
Big words.
Yeah. And most of the time they were like out of context. And so I dealt with that for years. Like people would be like, I don't think that's what that word means, Kerrigan. Or I would say it wrong because I'd read it, but I never heard anybody.
Heard it, yeah.
So jumping into 8th grade, the next fix for this problem of anxiety and fear, especially social anxiety, because I grew up in a world where I just thought you could like kind of be yourself and that would be okay, or people would make fun of you for being weird. Like I hadn't been made fun of a lot up until this point. I'd seen a lot, but nobody like picked and belittled me. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really aware of what brought that on and how to make yourself a target for that. And I learned real quick, like, whoa, whoever Kerrigan is right now, he can't come out. We got to shut that down. And I started wearing masks. You know, we talk about taking the masks off in recovery, and that's really when I started putting them on. It was public school. I used to take a lot of pride in kind of being the chameleon, being the guy who could kind of shape shift depending on who he was around. And there is some social gifting there, like being able to jump into any circle. But for me, it was a character defect. And it worked for a while. But then it didn't. And the problem was still there. And then I remember my first introduction to the concept of like physical substances is I was hanging out with a couple buddies. We were staying the night at my friend's house. I think his dad fell asleep. We were out playing Call of Duty, drinking Mountain Dew, and eating pizza, the glory days. And he pulls out a can of his dad's Copenhagen. And he was like, you guys want to try it? One guy was like, no, I'm not. No. Another guy was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And he spit it out immediately. The next guy tried it and he threw up, like spit it out and ended up throwing up. And I tried it. And when that hit my bloodstream, I was like, something's there. Because it was the first time I made the connection between a physical substance modifying how I felt in such a dramatic way. And I was like, I like that.
So you're saying my head spins.
Yeah.
And I want to do more of this.
Yeah. You're telling me all I have to do is deal with this weird, bitter flavor and I can get all this. But there was actually an instance my mother reminded me of when I was a kid too. I don't know how old I was, like 8 or 9, but they were pulling a tooth and they gave me gas. And they gave me the gas and I remember feeling like, whoa, that's cool. And the doctor came and was like, is the gas working? And I was like, no.
It's not.
It's not working. You're going to have to crank it up.
Yeah.
I was a kid, you know? And we talk about it in recovery, like we don't know why we have the disease of addiction. It's not of immediate importance.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's not important. And if I were to kind of trace it back, it would probably be, you know, from the divorce and all that and the trauma afterwards.
So you think it's nurture?
It
wouldn't be nurture over Nick. Well, I guess
it would be. Yeah, in that case. I am no professional on the topic, but I would say
learned or
nurture would be what happens to you. Nature is kind of genetic disposition.
Yeah.
But the more I learn about health and nutrition and what we claim like is genetic versus lifestyle, the more I rethink that addiction is primarily genetic. Because we talk about how, well, my dad had addiction, or my dad didn't, but I hear that a lot. My dad had addiction, my mom had addiction. So, and I think that most of the time we see that behavior and we learn it, and then we also experience some trauma from it. But I'm no professional, but most of I've sponsored a lot of people. I've heard a lot of stories. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
I think maybe 2 of them didn't recount some type of trauma.
I think it could be. I'm a nerd. I'm a nature guy, but
love to hear your theory on it.
But I think it could be. Okay, like schizophrenia is like it could be late onset or early onset, right? So like, but it could be trauma induced. Something happens, and then it changes you. Like it's there, but the trauma, it could be both, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm wired different. I feel like I have, if I could really pinpoint, I have a weird theory, but I have like a conscious yearning for relief spiritually because I'm uncomfortable naturally. Now, I think that without that addiction, like that uncomfortableness, I don't think that I would ever see God. And I think that who I am without the addiction, I would never get to where I need to go. I would be so, I don't know. Like, I feel like how many people come to a room full of 12-step room? I mean, you sponsor a lot of people. I've sponsored a lot of people. How many people come there and they have a skewed view of God. They don't know where to find him. And they just are confused.
100%.
Yeah. I don't know about 100. Some of them show up with a God.
But do they have a skewed view of him?
Yes.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody.
Yeah. So I almost feel like it's this weird feeling that I have, like the God I have in my life is omnipotent, and everywhere, and smart, intelligent, way more than I could ever think. But I feel like 12-step or something like that is almost built in for us. Like the way it was created and how it happened is like, where else would we land, to find God?
Yeah.
Because for me, like, I'm good with church now, but then it seems so far.
Yeah. They were on my 4th step,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think they were mine too.
Yeah. They're on a lot of people's. And
well, I would assume you sponsor a lot more. You said you sponsor young guys, or you like sponsoring young guys. I thought I would, but I would assume that who you are, you sponsor more people with religious background.
believe it or not, that hasn't really been the case.
Really?
Yeah. I've got, like, right now I've got a mix. 2 of them aren't, and then 1 is. I think most people.
I don't like sponsoring religious background.
Yeah, it's. I love doing. They both have their pros and cons, but what I found, like right now, I'm sponsoring a staunch atheist, and we have some of the best conversations.
Yeah.
On step, especially 2 and 3, when we start getting into God of your understanding, and I might go off on a tangent here because this has been a huge passion of mine. People in church are really turned off by that. People, maybe, and I don't want to say all of them.
I think that's what I mean by, like, where else would he fall?
Right.
How is he going to get there?
Yeah.
Without someone like you and his problem getting him there. Because he might not ever get there, But, like, how else would he get there? You think a preacher, you think someone at the church is going to,
And I think, and I don't want to say all people, I don't want to put everybody in the same category, because I've met some really good, theologically sound, mature, open-minded Christians.
Yeah, me too.
And a lot of them are my family, but like really, really close to a lot of people from the church, and I'm really involved. But one thing I've heard consistently is that the language of higher power is threatening. and it's that
It's too loose.
it's too loose. We believe in one true God. Where I get frustrated is the lack of understanding for the way that God works, in the lack of his versatility and perfection and how he helps the people. Like we see, I mean, it's not his will that any be lost. So we see him get creative time and time again of reaching people. And if we look back at Abraham, didn't know anything about the fullness of God and the messianic sacrifice of Jesus. None of that.
Most of the people in the Bible were at a awe and loss of what was going on with
Had
them.
no clue.
Yes.
All Abraham knew is he was a promise keeper. That's it. And there was this great power. And so then we, from Genesis to Revelation, we see this idea of progressive sanctification for his people, where he continues to show more and more and build on evidence with the human race. Why he does that, I don't know. He's God. He's got his own method of doing things. If he can do that at the macro, why can't we trust him to do it at the micro for the individual who have been judged, hurt, turned away, or maybe they just grew up with a different algorithm.
Yeah, just different.
And all they see are bigots, unkind, judgmental people because the media presented them that way. Is that true? Not all the time. But what if, so we have to put ourselves in the shoes of these people and think if they're living in this bubble, how do we get inside that bubble? Because they're not hearing the whole, well, have you tried praying? Have you tried reading the Bible? Have you tried going to church every Sunday? Most of them have, and the results are in. And so I think that God just saw this group of people and was like, I'm not letting y'all fall away.
That's how I feel.
I'm not letting y'all do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, in his grace, he gave us verbiage that didn't turn people away when they first walked in the door and gave them the freedom to learn more about him. And if God's not threatened by the language of higher power and God, if you're understanding, then we shouldn't be either. And what I always, doing these step working sessions and when I'm talking to other addicts is I tell them first and foremost, my job is to be your sponsor. I'm not going to be your pastor. I'm not going to try to convert you. That's not my goal. I'm here to love you, get you through the 12 steps, and give you the tools to do whatever you want with them. Because when I got those tools, because I was not a Christian on my first couple steps. I denounced Christianity. I was done with it.
Really?
I knew there was a God, and at first I wanted to believe in him. But after the first few steps, I was like, I'm putting all this in a box. I can't touch this right now. I need help, and church didn't provide it. And that's not all churches. Some churches are really well equipped.
Just your experience.
It's just my experience. I put a lot of caveats on stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so my job is to give them the same tools that I got, open-mindedness, take the message, not the messenger, leave take what you want and leave the rest. Like all these tools that I was given through Narcotics Anonymous to come back into church with an open mind and a different perspective.
Yeah, don't we all end up in the same place anyways? Like, it's like, if I come in as a sponsor and I'm strong and I'm heavy-handed, the person's going to get offended. They're going to become antagonistic. The goal is missed. If I come in, like you said, like with the prescription, you were like, I'm just here to take you through the steps. I'm here to give you the tools you need. In AA literature, it kind of gives a prescription of what a sponsor should be. It's a very small, it's no access to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. And that the person, I can't think of the words, but the person has been where I've been. Those are kind of...
I haven't read that. That's good.
I'll have to send it to you. But the access to grind part is in there, no lectures to be endured. But it's just a one paragraph. There is no... The NA book is more prescription based. Like, this is what we're doing. This is who we are. But the AA is more... It has clear-cut directions, but it's more like entangled in. It's not like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, it never even says step 2. It tells you how to find God.
Yeah.
Like, it says, if you think honestly and search diligently and sweep away all prejudice, your answer is surely to come. So it doesn't really say this is step 2, do this, where the NA book is a little more.
It's methodical.
Yeah, it's methodical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think the populations need, like whichever,
I found it to be the greatest
Yeah.
piece of literature
Me too, buddy.
I ever
The
came
other
across.
way. Yeah.
I mean, and that's not to say anything against other literature, but that's exactly what I needed. Was like a homework style workbook that pulled apart my brain in a way I didn't. Like, they had the cheat code to my brain because they lived it.
Listen, when I read In Treatment 15, 20 years ago, something like that. I'm 35. 17 years ago, something like that. Who is an addict? God, dude, I felt like they were following me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I remember my first meeting and people were sharing things that go through my head, but they were saying them out loud.
Yeah.
And they were like laughing about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like all the crazy stuff we think about, the crazy schemes and plans and all that. And I was like, whoa, dude, you're not supposed to say that. Like, you can't say the quiet part out loud like that. And I looked around, like everybody was laughing with identification. And I just remember feeling that overwhelming sense of home. And identification was just unbelievable.
So the identification is so, I think it's where hope happens. It's like when I'm in a room and these people think like me, they feel like me, and they're laughing. I feel like, okay, there's hope,
And they're confident too. Not all of them, but the ones that were attractive.
Attractive, yeah.
I was like, man, you said all that and you're still smiling. You still seem comfortable in your own skin. You're not faking it. Yeah, it was really attractive. And we talk about identification because we do speak what we talk about in the literature as like an esoteric language.
Explain.
That
was one of those words.
Yeah, it's one of the words. Yeah, NA taught me that one. And
really?
It's in our literature, esoteric.
Okay.
And kind of learned to use dictionaries at that. I had the phone, but I looked that one up, and it's a language that few will understand. That's spoken exclusively in a group,
like nomenclature.
Kind of, but like if you and I have a bunch of like insider jokes and we hang out for 30 years, we're going to develop all sorts of funny ways of talking that nobody would understand. That would be our esoteric language.
Yeah.
In recovery, when we talk about our ego and our masks and our character defects and the way we schemed and lied, it's esoteric because only the people who've experienced it would click with.
Yeah. When I sponsor someone, I'm pretty methodical. For an AA sponsor, I'm methodical. We have a notebook. They write down in their notebook everything we're doing so that when they become a sponsor, they know exactly what to write.
Dude, that's smart.
I'm taking that. I tweaked out in 2017, 18, and I was like, I'm gonna write a book, like write a step workbook,
I'm definitely taking that idea.
But I want to know that they can write a 4-step, and I want to know they're willing. So some of the stuff has changed amongst, So what I usually do, I say, hey, I need you to call me 7 days in a row, which is 7 days. It's not a lot, buddy.
It's a low bar.
Yeah. I need you to call me 7 days in a row. I might not answer. It's not my job to answer. It's your job to call me.
That's right.
And if you call, leave a voicemail and just tell me you called. If they don't do that, we restart. And then, if they can do that, then they get the notebook, they get the other book, and they get the 12 and 12. And those are their assignments to get those things. And then through that process, there's about 12, 13 pages of writing in the notebook. And I give them what to write. I just text them the stuff. Just, hey, I need you to write this stuff. And what I do is there's definitions. And the definitions are recovery definitions. So they're esoteric.
I think esoteric. I think I pronounced it wrong, actually. I think I was saying esoteric, but it is esoteric.
Esoteric. Like, how am I going to speak to you? So, like, if I say you're resting on your laurels, I need to know that you know what I'm speaking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I need you to define the word, Well, what does the word willingness mean? In recovery, You know, it means doing stuff that I don't want to do, you know, like in plain language, you know. So they'd have definitions. But I also want to know that they can write. So when we get to the 4th step and they start dilly-dallying around, I go, I know you know how to write.
That's right. Yeah, because we talked about it here.
Yeah.
That's like when you open a debate, I've seen this a few times. They're like, first, let's define our terms.
Okay, yeah.
It's
yeah.
like, before we sponsor, let's define our terms.
They
here.
usually get stuck right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You filtered out a lot of people right there, I'm sure.
Yeah. I watch those, they run to the middle of the room.
That's it. Yeah.
Let's define the term, you know.
Okay.
And they'll do that a lot, and then they'll get stuck right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes not.
That's where the debate starts, probably, is just in defining the term.
Especially in today's day and age.
Yeah. You can't even start
Yeah.
a debate anymore.
Yeah. Esoteric. I think I've heard that word twice in my life other than that.
It stuck with me because it was my experience. And I think it came to me because there was a story that somebody told. And every time I see her, she lives in Nashville. She's an old timer. I tell her, I remember that story you told. It was one of my first meetings. And she told this story about her friend who had surgery. And they were both in high school. And she made a point to try to have a sleepover and hang out with her because she knew the orange bottles would be in the cabinet. And I was like, that's exactly something I would have done. That was my first introduction to like an esoteric language being spoken. And I was like, I can't believe she said that out loud. You know, what a cool experience. I remind her every time, like, you made me feel at home for that story. And it's never the motivational speakers in meetings, you know, that make me stick. It might be for some people. And I don't mind a little hype, you know, but the ones that really had me stick around were the ones that were just speaking very plainly about what they experienced.
I think it's the people who are speaking my story.
Mm-hmm.
So, which helps me speak. I mean, I spoke a lot, but I'm there for one person in the room, you know, and I don't know who that one person is. I'm going to tell my story exactly as honest as I can be, and how I felt and what I was going through and the emotions and all that stuff, and how progress happened, you know. And somebody in the room's it's not for everybody, you know, because I didn't change my life until I was in recovery 10 years, in and out of recovery for 10 years prior. And then one person said their story and I heard it and my life changed.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And because he was telling my story. He was a little bit charismatic, but he was telling me, I thought it wouldn't work. I was too far gone. That was my, you know, yeah, there's people and they do this and they do that and they're drug addicts, but like, they're not like me, you know, and I'm real cleaned up, you know, as at the moment of my life, but just like, I just thought that, and this guy was telling my story and it just clicked, you know, and then I became willing to, like, you know, get what he had, you know. Before that, would go to meetings, and I remember, like, I was in Chattanooga and one time in treatment, and this guy, he drove up in a nice truck and he had a nice outfit and he had a flat bill. He probably had 5 days sober, but in my mind, he was successful, you know, and I wanted what he had, you know? But that's as far as I could see, you know. After that guy spoke, it like changed me, you know. I wanted what he had, and he said he did these things. He read this book and did what he said, and, you know, did what it said in the book, and he had a sponsor. And, well, I want that, you know.
It's funny you say that. I spoke for a treatment center recently, and towards the end of it, my buddy was the one who invited me, and he was managing the house. And I got towards the end of my story when it's kind of talk about like what it's like now, and I glossed over success really quick.
Really?
About financial success and any type of
Okay.
stuff like that. I glossed over it real quick, and he leaned over and he was like, "Get into that more." I was like, "Why?" You know, I didn't want that to be the attractive piece, but he reminded me. He's like, "Because they're going to want to hear it."
Yeah.
As long as I point back to the steps and like God as the reason I have those things, I can do it humbly. But I got uncomfortable. You know, it wasn't something I wanted to talk about. But those guys with, you know, 2 days clean, to capture their attention sometimes and point them back to the thing, like,
You got to meet them where they're
Yeah,
at.
but you're never getting that new truck, first off,
Yeah.
if you're not willing to work a first step. You know, it's very unlikely, I'll put it that way. And so sometimes they do need to hear, if you've got financial goals, you got to stay clean to hit them.
That's usually all they got, buddy. They got financial, and
Yeah.
girl, you know, like
That's it. Yeah.
yeah,
Primal. I was like, I mean, that me too.
Yeah.
You know, I did want to get rid of the feeling of crippling insecurity though. Like that one, I wanted that to go away.
I was a little over a year sober, but I was part of a really strong sponsorship family, really strong, and at the time, and one of my sponsee brothers, he dressed really nice, and I dressed. Hell, I barely had shoes on sometimes. I felt like floating on a rock somewhere. I was, at the time, I was probably like the most spiritually grounded person out of the, you know, the family or whatever, you know. But at the end of the meeting, my sponsor said, "Did you go talk to that newcomer?" And I go, "No, so-and-so's talking to him." And he goes, "Is that what's best for him?" But that newcomer had approached him because of what he was wearing, what he dressed like. And like, nobody else got it in the room, you know. But for me, I felt like, okay, you know, I don't want to like lose myself in the moment, you know, but if I want to be the most maximum of help, I have to be able to reach the people I need to reach. And I don't want to them to reach me because of like some false sense of who I am.
Yeah.
But I don't have to wear sandals that are, you know, mismatched and, you know, shorts that are, you know, like I was just like, and I kind of like began to like kind of change my life and become more attractive in what I was offering, you know, which I overcorrected and lost myself in that, honestly. But it did teach me that people can see as far as they can see. People get in my truck now, you know, with the business I have or whatever, and they go, "Dang, this is a nice truck." And I used to go, I have to explain to them that I spent 10 years getting this truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it took me this, and I had to work all these side jobs, and I had to do this. And I go, but now I just go, "Thank you. I appreciate it." You know?
Yeah.
I don't have to like, it's not, I don't have to justify or explain or, you know, like, it's just, I have the nice truck because I've earned it, you know? I think at some point I had, it's not imposter syndrome because I don't really have that. I don't really wake up and go, "I didn't earn it." I think I have some preachers have this thing, maybe like they make $100,000 a year and they preach at this big church, but they drive a 96 Camry because they don't want to be perceived as misusing funds or God's money, or, you know, like, but people have helped me realize, like, you earned it. Like, it's not something like just given to you, you know, like, so like it was, it's been like I'm the most frugal person ever, you know, like, I know that. I don't need to explain it to you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Frugal. Yeah. Frugal.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Frivolous. What's frivolous? Like free for all?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm frugal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, it took me a long time to go, like, I don't owe this person anything, you know, like, I got the truck because my wife wanted me to get the truck. You know? I would have been fine driving the, you know, but
The beater around back.
around back, yeah. But that's because of, I don't really care. But I think there has been times where, like, I wanted a G-Wagon back in like 2020 or something.
Yeah, I think we've all been through that.
Yeah. And I was like, but how am I going to, 2021, 2022, I was like, I was working a different job in my company. And I did everything, you know. I don't do everything now, but how am I going to show up on Friday and collect fees or whatever in a G-Wagon? People will be like, "No, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not."
You got enough.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll go out the front door on me.
Yeah. It can be off-putting for sure.
Yeah.
Luxury especially.
I don't even I enjoy convenience.
I do too.
I do not enjoy luxury. So first class, I feel worse. I've never sat in it, but I feel worse. If the plane goes down, we're all going down together. Like, I just wasted all this money on something that I could have experienced. Like, on the end of the trip, I could have paid more to experience scuba diving. That's fine. I'm good with that, you know. But like, we're on the same flight.
Going to the same destination.
Yeah, I don't understand.
You're gonna leave and come back at the exact same
I
time.
get off the flight 4 minutes earlier. Yeah, like I don't know. I just can't.
There's not a lot of convenience to dollar there. It's. I agree with you.
Sometimes I watch a lot of Seinfeld. Sometimes George Costanza. I lean a little George Costanza. He's kind of cheap, but like he's like, I just can't pay retail. It's a sickness, you know. But he can't he can't pay to park. Like he just drives around New York until he just drives around the building until somebody opens up. She's like, just pay to park, George. He's like, I can't. It's a sickness. You know? It's like something ingrained in me. You know? Yeah. That's me, kind of.
I've got a little bit of that. I probably fall in the middle of the boat. Like I've got
better.
I've had seasons of like crazy spending, and then seasons of great frugility.
That's how I was before recovery.
Yeah.
I think I just, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but you know, I've never had a full-time job in recovery. I mean, I do tell people when people start getting a little weird, you know, about, like, I don't know, like when I'm like, when I have the Monday night meeting or whatever, sometimes I'll bring it up. But more along the lines that I kept my recovery and God first and everything happened for me, you know. But I made under $1,200 or $1,300 for the first 3 or 4 years of my recovery, like on check. And I mean, we had a home. I bought my first home. Had a family, supported a family, you know, like because of like how I am with money, not because we had an extravagant amount. I mean, people back then I'd be driving like a Nissan Sentra that leaked oil, and people like can't hide money.
Yeah.
Dude, is that the perception I'm giving you?
Yeah. And the Sentra, the Sentras and Altimas are like staple cars in recovery.
That's a come up.
Yeah, that's a come up. So it's got the heated seats too. Just living large.
This one did not.
Yeah.
This was like old.
Yeah.
I
got a similar kind of thing. I mean, I started like blue collar work for the first couple years. It was like night shift at Nissan, getting paid $11.75 an hour.
That was a while ago.
And they work us 80 hours a week sometimes. And it was not volunteer overtime. It was mandatory because we were temps. And then even when you got on full time, it was still mandatory. And I slept in my sister's garage for first little bit. I don't know how long it was, but it was summertime.
Was it hot?
Yeah, dude, I didn't sleep much at all my first year clean. But I hit 90 meetings in 90 days and stayed involved.
You know Mike M?
Probably. I actually know 2 Mike M's. But.
He's been in and out. He's one of my good friends, but I don't want to like bust his name anyway. The AC was out next door, and he came back after a run, and it was out, dude. He was up there for a week, just like punishing himself. He was just like, I'll do it, you know. What on top bunk? Yeah. I mean, I only have bunk bed. That's the only place I have bunk beds. He's like, that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
Go. It's 97 degrees up there. Yeah.
Desperation, man. That first year, I laid the groundwork for my recovery. I took every suggestion because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think that's a really hard thing to tell people of when that comes and how it comes, because only an addict can decide when to stop.
Yeah.
I think I know now, like, there's a blend of like desperation and hope. And then there's just like a push from God that like we can't control when that happens. And maybe in the next life, we'll have an education lesson on how it all worked. But it's hard to explain or quantify because it just eventually happened. That, okay, all right, I'm going to take every suggestion. Like my pain just reached a threshold, and I'm so lucky too because I had a pretty low tolerance for pain. Like my addiction, I went full blast, 110% for like 3 years, and that was all I could take.
Hard drugs?
It ended with the I think the hard drugs. Now, you got to keep in mind, too, I came from such a conservative background in morals and values.
Well, I just know that hard drugs, like, what's the word? Exponentially speeds up rock bottom.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
So the first time that I tried heroin, I was so scared,
Me too.
mortified.
Yeah.
I was mortified at how much I liked it. I was mortified at the fact I had done it. At that point, I couldn't deny it anymore.
I was like scared to do it, which is the only.
Yeah,
it was the only thing that ever sat in front of me that I go, I'm gonna be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was out of money.
That went out very quickly. Yeah.
I was out of money, and that's all he had, and he didn't have what I normally bought.
Like pain pills.
Yeah. Painkillers, and then I love the uppers and just speedballing, so I'd always get one of each on that front. It's weird being in a setting to where it's okay to talk about drug names, because I almost never do.
Because the recovery
inside of a meeting, I'm not gonna talk about it.
I'm not an NA member. I move around NA, but like celebrations, people invite me or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I've shared in NA meetings. I try not to because I'm not a member, and I'm kind of wanting to be there to observe.
Sure.
But I've heard people talk, but I would never. Well, actually, I have. I've went there in early recovery to dump because I'm I'm a different fellowship. It was suggested because it was coming up in me, like I needed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went there. I forgot about that. I was like, and they were probably like, dude, this guy needs help. I didn't know that you were supposed to withhold.
Yeah. So the line there is like
glorifying.
If you're glorifying, if you're getting into unnecessary details that are going to trigger people, like there have been a few times where I've called out specific drug names because newcomers may not know that they are drugs. Like, for example, I shared some experience with like somebody relapsing and it starting with Kratom.
Okay.
And so a lot of you don't even hear that word dropped in meetings. And so I use it as an opportunity to say, he's now out here doing this because he thought a little bit of gas station Kratom was going to be okay.
Yeah. It's a gray area thing. It's not really hit. I mean, it's hit in but it's not really like in the literature or
that some of how they're making it now, they're concentrating it down. People are selling their oxys to go buy it.
It's bad.
It's really bad. And the withdrawals are fast and severe. And I've talked to 2 people that have gone through it and relapsed on it. Yeah. And it's sad. So I use that opportunity to.
We probably know one of the same people.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, dude, the Kratom is it's bad.
It's funny that it made a resurgence because.
Well, they changed it.
They changed it, yeah. I mean, back when I was using, it was illegal here in Tennessee, but it was legal in Alabama, and I bought it all the time. And it was, there was a specific kind. It was kind of concentrated. It wasn't made the same. But the withdrawals from that, I was taking so much of it because I didn't want to admit I was in addiction. And this was kind of this like gray area plant. But if you look further, like what they do to distill it down and break it down and like concentrate it, it's the same thing as pharmaceutical opiates. It hits your brain the exact same way, and the withdrawals are the same, if not more severe in some cases. And so I was taking that and just like in denial about the whole addiction thing. And then when it ended with heroin, and I realized like I can no longer say I haven't done hard drugs. Like I'm in addiction. That was like a big deal for me just to realize I've got a problem. How deep is this problem? I don't know, but I'm addicted to drugs. And I think that, I think it was like a week after that I checked myself into rehab because I was just horrified.
And you were 19?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Where at?
Warrior, Alabama, Bradford. Great spot.
Is that where you were living in Alabama then?
Yeah, Gadsden.
It's a great spot.
Warrior, yeah, the Warrior. Bradford.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'd go back right now.
Me too.
It's just sweet.
I've actually thought of like opening there's kind of something like this, but like treatment for people that are still sober. Like,
Dude.
because
Like a retreat center?
yeah, retreat center. You know how many people
A retreatment center? Huh?
a retreatment
Hey.
center. You know how many people like are in recovery and they're like, dude, I just need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. But can insurance pay for it? That would be great if people's work insurance could pay for it. But there is like, I went to this thing called On-Site, and it's like that. It's not for treatment, for recovery, but it's intense. It's like 5 days. Sometimes you can do different packages or whatever. It's expensive, but and I've done other retreats, 3-4 day retreats for people that are in recovery. But I mean, I guess those worked. I mean, you don't really need the 30 days because you're not really separating yourself from a substance. I don't know. No phones at On-Site.
Yeah.
None. And
That's the way to do it.
heavy trauma work. I mean, I think they should, maybe if you did it, you would do like different paths. Like some people they need a retreat and have fun. They want a vacation, you know, but like an organized vacation, you know, versus I want to do like more heavy lifting, therapeutic stuff, you know, so maybe there should be more different routes, you know.
Either one. I think for me, I've never done anything.
There's one that I can, that it's kind of new. It's in Grundy County.
Oh, no kidding.
And they're kind of starting. It was a retreat for people that are like early recovery. Now they've figured out that like people that work in recovery or that are in recovery need like spots. So it was really cool. We were the first group, like a test group. But it was everybody that worked in recovery, and it was great. But
What's it called?
It's called Mountain. Hold on. Mountain Recovery Retreat, something like that. Mountain something.
It should be enough to Google search it.
I'll send you the info. But they send me flyers every time because, but what will be really good is like they do like work retreats or like, you know, like if you and some guys like in recovery, y'all knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to know each other. It could be like, okay, maybe I want to get to know this person, but like we're around each other, but we've done some of the same stuff, you know. Working in recovery and going up there was great because everybody there has the same problems.
Yeah.
Like different problems, but like the phone, like I wake up with the phone and it has 80 messages on it. I take 50 phone calls a day. Everybody else does the exact same. We're like running. We have no boundaries. We don't know how to like set personal like stuff around like boundaries around ourselves and our self-care life. And like it was pretty common theme going on, you know, and we just felt like we could really, we also are all, it was really great because we were all so emotionally attuned, emotionally intelligent that when we came there, they were like planning on like, okay, day 2, everybody would just drop and like it would happen, you know, but like 20 minutes, everybody was like, this is my shit.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And they were like, we have to regroup. Like we did not expect this to happen, but like we know what we need to do. We just aren't doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great.
It's funny in situations like that. And then also like going to therapy and the therapists are like, all right, well, 90% of the front end work is already done. You know, because you're getting right into what you need to address.
Yeah.
I've been told that by a couple of therapists. Like, okay, glad we got, you know.
I do this thing though that's harmful to me, but I'm very open and upfront about it in therapy. I mean, I've been in therapy since I was a young child, then a teenager, then more than a teenager, and then a young adult. You know, I've been in therapy my entire life. Mm-hmm. And then you add recovery and like being clear-minded in therapy on top of all that stuff, and then working in the field. I will navigate the conversation however I want to navigate it.
Yeah.
And then about 20 minutes in, I'll go, yeah, this is actually what's going on.
Yeah.
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 I have to tell on myself because if I don't, I'll like run the room, you know?
Yeah. And it's not that you're smarter than they are necessarily. It's just the fact that they can only help you with the information you give them.
Correct.
And, you know, we've been doing this for so long. We know what information opens up what doors of questioning. Yeah. So I've been in that spot too, to where now sometimes I do bring, I don't know, man, I need to get some good referrals on therapists. I feel like I've gone to a few and I've just
some
been like,
great ones.
Yeah, I'll probably text you for that because I've been to some where I'm like, dude, I know. Like, just challenge me, show me something I haven't seen, help me learn. And I've struggled a little bit in that area. That's why I asked you on the front end of like, what are you getting there that's a little different? Mm-hmm. Because I keep hearing these stories of these just incredible experiences. I just haven't, and it's not lack of trying. I have put in some effort.
I think it's probably, okay, from reports from therapists that I've had, without telling me their clients, you know, I'd be like, well, you know, what's different? You know, how do people react in here versus a lot of times they come in and they just pour to cry. They're so overwhelmed and so bombarded. Regular people, they kind of go in like with what therapy they think is. It's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
And we're coming in with a methodical view because that's where we came from. Mm-hmm. Like, and we almost need somebody to go, quit bullshitting and just do the, you know, we need a sponsor kind of.
Yeah.
We need a in-between sponsor and a therapist. Mm-hmm. Some of the best work my therapist has ever done is like he didn't take his therapist hat off, but kind of like, dude, I'm tired of hearing you, you know, like, yeah. Like, this is what's going on.
Just man to man.
Yeah. Just tell me what, you know. I do have a great guy that he's actually my friend, but he's a good therapist. I don't go to him because, but I can tell he's good. He's a part of like a firm that they do like just kind of hire in stuff, you know, like people fly in to do intensives and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's good. That also depends what you're looking for, because some people respond to IFS, EFT, somatic, you know, psychotherapy, experiential. People respond to different things. You know, some people can't do IFS, like parts work therapy. Mm-hmm. Some people can't do psychotherapy, like role playing stuff. They can't get there. You know, I do good with like. Not everybody does this, but like chair work, which is like, dude, if a chair ever comes out in therapy, dude, it's about to get weird. But
I've never heard of this.
I know they do it. At on-site, they do a lot of it. It's psychotherapy, pretty much role playing. There's different forms of this, but the chair would be like, okay, I'm my biggest fan. I'm my mother. I'm going to talk to myself in the chair as my 7-year-old self. And I'm going to tell him what he needs to know. Well, I love you and I'm proud of you. You're going to be proud of you. You're going to do great things. This type of stuff, you know. It could be used also like, okay, my dad passed away. Not my dad, but I want to talk to my dad. I need to like have healing from that. Well, he sits in the chair. I talk to him. Then they do some type, if you're in a group type situation, somebody can embody you or your father. And I've seen some crazy stuff like that that's like been very therapeutic for people.
That's wild.
They did this thing at I'm not going to tell you which retreat, but you sit in this chair. You have ones and twos, you know, I'm 1, you're 2, I'm 1, you're 2. And then everybody gets in circle and the ones sit in the circle. And what would I tell my childhood self? One thing. And they get behind you and the twos are behind you and you say something and then you move and you whisper in the person's ear. You go, I'm proud of you. And then you move. And then you go, I'm sorry you were hurt. Dude. Talk about emotional experience.
I'd be ugly crying
Dude.
pretty quick. Like 5 minutes.
There were some that were like, okay, for me, it's like, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Okay. But there were some that were like dark. I wish there was someone there to check on you. Stuff like that. I was like, God bless, dude. Ugly crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that one.
You see like the world.
Yeah.
It's like you see the world of like as a child in a room, as a 7-year-old in that dark room alone. Like, what did you need to hear? What was happening in that house? Yeah. It's like, God, it was rough. That's kind of different. So people respond to different things, you know?
Yeah. I have heard a little bit about that. Kind of the inner child witness sort of thing. That's real. And I think in those settings, and that's a little unique compared to typical recovery settings, because you're going really deep with people that you wouldn't typically hear maybe in a meeting.
Yes, correct.
And I think that type of exposure it's a blessing in one way, you know? And it's helped me understand people so much better and see the world in a light of like everybody's really hurt. And that's tough. That can be tough to put through that lens. The only reason I bring that up is because I'm in a season right now where I really want to be around recovery people more. I feel like I've kind of maybe ignored some of the needs I have. And most people in recovery have done a lot of therapy, but they feel very much like an empathetic witness, like safe people in general, at least my circle.
Okay, yeah, they do.
And I've just been missing it a little bit. I think I've taken a little bit too much time outside of recovery, just pursuing other things, maybe.
I wouldn't say that's. I think that's a little too far of verbiage.
There might be some room for accurate verbiage there, yeah.
Outside of your network.
Outside of my network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in recovery? It's still part of your recovery.
Sure.
Yeah.
I see your point.
Yeah.
It's a good way to correct it.
What year are you on?
June 12th is 10 years.
Okay. Yeah. Normal.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between year 9 and 8, 9 into 11. Almost before 11, I took a break. It's out. And I took a break because it was unhealthy for me to be in those rooms and to be, I don't know if you can climb a recovery service commitment ladder. I think you're climbing down, but I just placed myself in a place of overcommitment for a very, very long time. And I felt like I had chained myself to the floor. I was no longer chained to addiction, but I was chained to the floor of the 12-step program. And my sponsor at the time, my second sponsor, he challenged me to unchain myself. Are you spiritually free or are you not? Do you have to go to that meeting? Do you have to do those things? If you do, then you're not spiritually free. And I go, this is the fear talking. Everybody's heard of that story. The guy has 10 years. He goes away from recovery and quits going to meetings, quits sharing the Thursday night, quits sponsoring people, and then he's drunk or high. Mm-hmm. Everybody's heard that story. And he goes, yeah, but have you ever heard the story of the guy that came spiritually pure or spiritually okay with himself and everybody around him and just took his life and went, enjoyed it? And he goes, no, they don't come back. If they do come back, they come back like because they want to, you know? And I challenged myself and I did it. And I unchained myself. And it scared me. Mm-hmm. But I was okay. And I learned a little bit who I was. And I also, during that unchained, I overcorrected. and I started running my own life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is easy to do.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, but I needed the space to go, okay, I need a new sponsor. I need a local sponsor. I'm going to get one. Well, how do I figure that out? I got 10 years, and not everybody in the room's applicable. And so I found the guy, and it was the right guy, and I was spiritually led to him, and it was the right guy for the right time, and really helped me navigate what I was going through. And, you know, he goes, where are you going to meetings? And I go, those things, you know?
Mm.
And then over time, I just, not because he was on me, just over time because I felt like, okay, we'll start going. And then I found this home group, not my old home group. I found this home group. It's a men's group. And it just felt like when I walked in, I felt I'm in the right place. Few people know who I am, but like nobody needs anything from me. I don't have to chair the meeting. I don't have to be a service. I don't have to do any. Now I'm dumb and I go, hey, are y'all doing these things? You know? And they go, yeah, you can do that. I go, yeah, you know, but I did find like I needed that separation to come back and feel to be a regular member of a 12-step program, because that's spiritually okay and spiritually pure, you know, not pure, spiritually grounded, and have people around me that are spiritually grounded and like-minded people. If I would have stayed in the same room and not closed the door, I'd still be there. And, but it scared me, you know, but I think that it's normal to be where you're at.
Especially, I mean, a year of marriage, everything got changed. Everything's changed.
And also I feel like you're, from what I know of you, is like, okay, you're not separated from because you're not spiritually connected. And my spiritual connectedness and my relationship with myself got better during those times.
Mm.
Now I overcorrected and kind of lost the situation, and but I'm human. I'm gonna overcorrect. I'm gonna make a mistake. I'm gonna remove myself from God and have to it's gonna happen. You know, like I think I'm smart. I think I'm in control all the time, you know? Not at the moment, but then I was.
Yeah.
I wanted to run my own life, you know?
Yeah.
And my sponsor, he would I got like an old sponsor, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And first time we met, we're talking, and he opens the book, he starts reading, and I go, this son of a, he's going to be one of those.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
everything has something to do with page 49.
Yeah.
You know, and he read it, and I go, that son of a,
Yeah.
like, and then next time we met, he did it again. I go, I've actually read something about that. And I go, you know, any life run on self-will, you know, and I go,
Mm-hmm.
one, he's right. And like, he's flipping this book, you know, like people that do that with the Bible, they're like, oh, here's a verse, you know?
Yeah.
I'd be like, it was just eating me up, but he was right every time. And I go, I don't want him to be right, you know? I want to be in control.
Yeah.
So tell me about kind of like what happened getting into recovery, like first year, first meeting, like how you felt,
Yeah.
what you did, that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, before that, everything just tanked, went to crap.
Yeah.
Did drugs, didn't work. They started doing me, and then it was over. I do want to call out one point though. I prayed a lot in addiction, and it's typically helped me get out of this. I'm sorry.
Foxhole prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those. And one night I'd been up 3 nights in a row, just kind of cracked out. Super paranoid. I'd never had paranoia like that. Like, you know, you see kind of tweakers. I'd never been in that tweaker state before. I had a Bible on my chest and like a 6-iron. No idea why I had a 6-iron, but I stayed in that position in my bedroom for hours. And I didn't even golf, so I don't know why I had it. But And I just pray, rocking back and forth, pray. God help, God help, God help. And the next morning, I looked at my phone and I realized I had went on a drive the night before or something, one of those nights. And I didn't remember going on the drive. And during the drive, I was recording myself doing like 65 down residential neighborhoods and making fun of my life. Like, look at what you're worth, dude, and like laughing hysterically. Just fully possessed by whatever was possessing me. And as soon as I started talking, I realized what I was going to say and what I was saying. Like, I was so nauseous, so made me so sick to my stomach. And I said that prayer the night before, and like nothing, the roof didn't open. Like nothing changed, man. I woke up the next morning and kept using, despite everything that had happened. And I share that because most of my experiences with God have not been revelation like that. It's been like a slow burn. And I realize, like in hindsight now, he heard every one of those prayers. It just didn't feel like it. But I always think about that night, because that was the night I was the most desperate out of any other times. I'd already dropped out of college and like my life was like tanking. So
Did your life, I mean, you said you used, but did your life over a shorter period of time get better? Like, did you fall into recovery after that? And
you mean when I got into recovery?
that prayer.
Oh,
Like,
so it was shortly after that prayer
yeah.
that I got caught for stealing my stepsister's Adderall. And then the desperation just spiraled. And that's when I tried heroin, I think a week later. I don't remember the timeline exactly, but it all happened.
You tell yourself you never do like hard drugs?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I had a similar, mine is kind of like that, like a similar experience where I had an experience with God. Nothing miraculous happened. But in the next 3 months, it just, everything happened for a reason. And I just was, there I was, boom. You know, I'm in the situation where I felt led. I don't know if I felt led, looking back, I was led by God. But I felt led to like do really hard, like I have choices in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the hard ones.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, okay, left, right. I go, that's hard. That's not. I'm going to do this
Boom.
one. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking
And
about.
then the next one would come and I go, that one. And I go, next one would come and I go, that one.
And I didn't give myself that grit. That was like a download.
Correct. Yes.
That was a download. So when that download hit, went to rehab, and then I learned in rehab. So like when I was using, it was like, okay, well, if I just get the drugs out of my body, my problems, because that's addiction, right? If you just quit, detox, I should be good. And after treatment, I mean, it was pretty scary picking up again because I talked myself into it. And this is kind of difficult to explain to people who are outside of recovery, like what addiction really is, like what the experience of addiction is. And I don't expect the world to understand it. And so I try to be empathetic towards people who are like, why don't you just stop? Why didn't you just stop? You had 30 days, right? And I would argue like, yes, I wanted to. I was also one of the most disciplined people I knew, even in addiction. I still had this weird, rigid discipline about me, very strong-willed. And this had me on my knees. And so there was something working against me. But the best way to describe it is just there's two brains. And one of them is leading you to a decision, and the other one is trying to tell you not to do that, but it gets shut out. And I mean, it's the closest thing to possession that I could explain to somebody.
Is the two brains idea something you've came up with, or it's
the two wolves? That's
yes.
sort of, it's the same concept, whichever wolf you feed the most. But the two brain is what I feel. It felt like two individual thinking systems.
In AA, they talk about, sometimes I feel weird about my anonymity in AA, but whatever. Who watches this? It talks about
the AA police.
They do. They've contacted me. They talk about the insane thought parallel with sane thinking. And we do this thing in my sponsorship family where I make them draw 2 lines. And over here is the sane line, and over here is the insane line. And I go, I want you to write things that are insane. And I'll go, like, burning down this house. That's one, write that. And then they'll start writing, like, insane ideas, you know? And then I'll go, write sane ideas. You know, like, I'll go, drink 8 glasses of water a day. Brush your teeth. And then they'll write more. You know, I'll kind of, like, get them going, you know? And then I'll make them draw a line in the middle of that. Like a heavy line. And then usually they'll write using drugs or drinking in the insane, because it is. We sit here today, it's insane. And then I go, what happens is, in addiction is, and we'll talk about that paragraph, the parallel, the insane idea jumping to the parallel, running parallel and jumping to the other side to insane thinking. And that we're powerless over this. So pretty much the insane idea will jump to the sane idea side like that. So fast. And we have no defense. We're powerless over this. And, you know, I'll talk to them about, okay, well, today you walked in a gas station and you made a decision. You made a decision to not drink. You went, okay, there's a strawberry. I go, I'm good. You know, okay, you made a decision. That decision to me is like, because I believe in pure powerlessness. So that decision to me is like, I can decide to breathe. Like I can decide to go, and I can decide to breathe out. Like I have voluntary movement over my breath.
It's a good way to think about it.
I do not have involuntary control over my breath. I can either have you choke me out or I'm breathing. That's it. I can't hold my breath. I can't, you know, there's nothing I can do. Like, and that's pretty much where we're stuck with addiction. So I have them draw a line. That's
a good parallel.
This is around step 2, but I have them draw a line in the middle, and we talk about a power greater than ourselves because we're powerless. And this is the only thing that will stop. Not how I think, not how I act, not my willpower. It's the only thing that's going to stop. So around 1, 2, we start talking about the lines and the parallel sound thinking.
I like that a lot.
I like the breath thing. That's something I came up with by just talking about it so much, you know.
We have a line in NA that says, we are powerless over our addiction. However, we do have a decision when we stop justifying our use of drugs.
Okay.
And I'm taking that out of context. I got to be careful to do that too with literature. But the context is that jump, and I tell this to my sponsees a lot, that jump between insane and sane thinking, or sane, which is where we want to be as a baseline, to insane thinking, which is the compulsive use of drugs typically. We need a buffer between that space, because when we first get clean, it happens, I mean, like so fast. It catches a lot of people off guard because they don't realize just how serious it is and how quickly it can happen. But when we first get clean, and even when we stay clean, we have to insert the spacer between our thinking and our decision making. And I tell people, like, your phone is going to be your spacer for a while. Meetings are a spacer, but they're not typically going to happen right when you have the thought. Your phone, picking up the phone is the best spacer you're going to have, and praying at the same time, and introducing a gap, just a second gap between the thought and the decision. Because ultimately, you know, we talk about, we've never seen anybody relapse who's done everything with a whole heart that we've recommended.
I've seen it, but yeah,
I'd love to hear your story, but
I can't.
I haven't experienced it. I've not seen anybody who has
Something's going on, but yeah,
picked up the phone.
No one calls their sponsees from Tree Man goes, you know, hey, I need you to get a new sponsor. You're on step 8, you know. Yeah, I gotta call my sponsee, my 3 sponsees in my home group, tell them I'm not gonna be there. You know? Yeah, from treatment. That rarely happens.
It's rare.
Yeah, I think it doesn't very happen. I've seen this one guy. I've seen it. I don't understand it. It's an enigma.
Yeah,
but
yeah, there's some of those too, man. Just like I've always considered the people who had like, and I've heard some of your story too of how I think your parents went through this like transformation.
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's like, wow. that's not the norm. But wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not my experience.
Just
And
a-
I don't think we should all shoot for that.
No.
Because if it didn't already happen, it probably won't.
What's weird is that my mother is 2 experiences is the biggest act of God I've ever seen. That, then her death. But her death is a weird one because she was very fervently praying every day, reading the Bible. She was like, and I know what she was praying for, you know? Her son was ate up with addiction with holes in his arms. I know what she was praying for, you know? So when she passed, it's weird because, you know, yeah, it's traumatic. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it like affected me really, really bad. In the totality of everything, I think that on a daily basis, she sacrificed herself to God for me. And I don't think that I would be here without that happening. So it was like the biggest act of God or providence that I had in my life, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
Because I don't think I would have ever, I don't know. After she was gone, I was alone. Nothing there. Nobody to call. It just became real. And I don't think I would have made the moves I made, you know, to be in recovery and find God and change my life. So it sucks that it happens that way, but
Yeah.
and I don't think I've thought about it a lot. Like I don't think it's me like wrapping silver lining around something that's bad. I really think she sacrificed herself, you know. You gotta be careful what you pray for.
That's powerful.
I've prayed crazy prayers like that. I've prayed for sponsees, for newcomers that I believe in. I've prayed like I'll sacrifice my recovery. I put my recovery on the line for this person. I believe in it that much, you know. That's a lot. I don't know. Maybe that's a little crazy for me to do, you know.
I believe God's never going to give us something that's
Correct. Yeah.
bad for us. But power prayer is real. I think it's what led me to finally pull the trigger and get clean, led me to NA. In fact, I went to my first meeting in Murfreesboro, and I didn't really want to go to a meeting. I wasn't like quite ready, but I wanted to check the box and get family off my back. And so I went, I pulled up to the church, and I walked in, and they were supposed to be meeting there, and there was like, they were having like a potluck or something. Like it wasn't an NA meeting. And somebody was like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Nope, never mind." Turned around, walked out. Like, it's not here. No meeting. Going home.
Was it an NA potluck?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I could tell there was like children, and it wasn't an NA thing. It was like they had crafts and stuff out. And so some guy in the parking lot rolls down his window in this old beat up truck, and he's like, "Hey, you looking for an NA meeting?" I was like, "Actually, yeah." He's like, "Follow me." And so I hop in the car and I follow him. He takes me to a meeting. Doesn't say anything. I pull in. He just points like from inside his car, and then turns around and drives away. Never seen that man again in my life. And I just think about like all those prayers, you know, and my mom was praying for me too. A lot of good people in my family were praying for me. Just things like that. Like I could recall 100 of those instances, and I'm sure you can too.
Yeah.
Of just like, wonder what that was about, you know, little wink. But that, yeah, when I locked in, because I picked up a few more times after that before I was like really ready. When I locked in, I took every suggestion. I wrote on my steps every day. I met with my sponsor every week, sometimes bi-weekly. I was really blessed to have a sponsor who was willing to do that. He relapsed later at 11 years. But he got me through the 12 steps. And he looked nothing like me, didn't talk anything like me, and totally different backgrounds. But man, we did some work. It was incredible first year.
Mine relapsed too.
Man, it's sad. How long did he have for?
14, 15.
Wow. What happened?
You know who, you were at that church meeting, right?
Which one?
The first one you went to is at a church.
Yeah.
There's a person that goes there that's kind of like a certain prestige in NA.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't want to say his name.
No, we can talk later. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
My sponsor was kind of like that.
Okay.
They were the same creature. One
Yeah.
was AA, one was NA, you know?
Yeah.
He became, it's not my recovery, but he had some character defects around sexual stuff. But I don't think that really would, I think he became sick in the rooms, like so attached to it. Tuesday night, Thursday night, district position, state position, but when I would go to his house, shit everywhere, back of truck, pamphlets everywhere, just holding on, you know? Which was another reason why I unchained myself. Also, what's hard, I'm sure you went through this, what's him and what's recovery? What's the 12 steps and what's him? Because he sponsored me for however long, you know? What is recovery? What is actually coming out of that book in the fellowship? And what was he telling me? And I had to really like figure out what was what, you know? And that was hard. And I also like attempted to pick up the family because we had a great sponsorship family. And I tried to pick up the role, you know?
Did it work?
Somewhat. No. Everybody was kind of headed out anyways. And you know, like you've been in recovery long enough to know people don't, you know, I'll sit in like newcomer meetings at Threshold or whatever, and I'll go, you know, sometimes it just hits me. The room I was in 11 years ago was on fire. Everybody there was on fire doing the work. Like everybody was engaged. Everybody was home group positions. Like we were like on fire. Like it was like that moment in time, you know? And I'm glad to be a part of it. I was also one of the people like overzealous, overdoing it. People would like say like, you're doing too much, you know? Nobody. These people were doing way beyond anybody at Threshold, you know? Nobody is around.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people that came in like a year later, that got sober a year later, and we were all together. But the people that I got like clean and sober with, some of them went out, some of them have okay lives. Didn't, you know, go real bad. Some of them went real bad. Some of them like smoke or whatever, you know, and they have okay lives, you know. And then some of them smoke, came back, and they have 5 years again or whatever. But like it does show you like how fragile it is.
Fragile and uncommon.
I'm sure that you have maybe not, but I'm sure you experience the same thing.
Well, what's funny is you talked about kind of there was a time where everyone was on fire.
On fire, dude.
I don't know if it's like euphoric recall, or maybe it's because I was just there all the time. So I saw and experienced everything because I was there 6-7 nights a week at a meeting.
Yeah.
And at every hangout I could be at.
Like, was it just euphoric for you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
maybe it was that.
There was a season where I felt like there was a lot more engagement activity. And
it happens. It rotates in general in recovery rooms.
Yeah, I think it ebbs and flows. But we had a close-knit group. A lot of them have stuck around, and I'm very blessed. But a lot of them have relapsed. I mean, my brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law now, went back out after he had a kid with my sister. Heartbreaking to see it that close. Somebody in recovery who had it tear apart a family like that. Never seen that as a mature, like with that view and perspective. And then, you know, my sponsor went back out. I've had a lot of friends. You know, one close friend is kind of in the thick of it right now. I still take his calls, but like, you know how it is. We're not homies anymore. Like, and it's got nothing to do with my decision making, but when you're in active addiction, you're in active addiction, dog. Like, there are no rules when you're trying to get one more. I can't be safe around you. Like, but will I pick up the phone? Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Will I drive you to treatment, take you to the hospital if you OD? Like, yeah, man, I'm there. Am I going to pay your rent? No.
Are you cool? Like, in those situations, I actually talked to I talked to a few people that are, in active addiction. But I'm not hard on them.
No.
Are you hard on them or no?
It depends. If they start on some nonsense, I'm hard on them. If it's like, well, I've got a plan together and I'm getting clean and this is my clean plan. Okay, you're just going to do it on your own. Did that work last time? Right? You might get some of that.
I just kind of go, I don't lie to them, but I'm just like, just figure it out, man. I mean, one of them asked me like, well, what would you tell somebody in this situation? And like, AA is different than NA. And I understand why NA is the way it is. And I understand why CR is the way it is, And they all can actually, I think they should learn things from each other.
I agree.
But, and we're about to talk about that, I think. But in AA, if you think you can drink and use, drink. Do you need a ride to the bar?
I remember my first AA sponsor saying that.
Yeah. Would you like to try some controlled drinking? Yeah. And NA, and it's got worse in 10 years. Fentanyl, and it's bad.
Yeah.
There's more of like no, don't use, please call, and I understand. But I think that, someone from NA asked me, well, what would you do? And I would say, try it. Try some controlled fucking using. I mean, and they're already using.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, we're breaking something here.
Sure.
But like, I think that if NA could get to a place like that, a little more openly network style, like, because they're more, and I think AA should be more loving and kind and huggy, and, we shake hands and don't hug, and, you leave a meeting in AA, and, I usually talk and go to coffee, but, people get in their car and leave. Gone. NA, they're going to volleyball, or they're going to Toots, or, it's way more connectedness, but I do think that like having that approach with the controlled drinking is a good, sometimes a sponsor, sometimes a room is lowering the like raising the bottom. Mm. They're putting excuses where there shouldn't be, sometimes.
Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah. And it's scary. I'm not there. I'm not a member of NA, so I don't know, I don't know what it's like. I do know what it's like to lose people. I've lost a lot of people, but I know that's scary. Fentanyl's scary. Drugs in general are more scary than alcohol,
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen this too with what you do. Like ODs they happen really fast now.
Yes.
So, but I mean, I agree with you. I'll still tell them something along those lines, like, hey, if you think you're not an addict, then you should have exactly as many pills left by this time next week as you're saying you're going to have. Yeah. So why don't you call me next week and tell me how successfully you used?
It's the only disease that we self-diagnose.
Yeah. You can only be an addict if you say you're an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think how do you think that, how do I phrase this? I mean, it's not that crazy of a question, but just like, okay, you're faith-based. You're faith-based and you're NA. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I want to misspeak, but.
No, that's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you navigate both? How do you attend? For me, it's hard. That's why I'm asking. How do you attend both? How do you serve both? And how has it helped you do both?
That's a great question. This is actually what I was just talking to my sponsor about last night, because I got to reevaluate some time things, because I got this pull, like I mentioned earlier. Like, I want to be closer to my network, closer to the people that can really benefit from my help. So I like apologetics. That's kind of what led me back to believing in the Bible, believing in this ancient God of Israel. And I think there was enough compelling evidence and truth to where I said, okay, I think that's the God I've been praying to. I think that's the God that's been talking to me. So I started with a different foundation than a lot of people because I was okay with talking to God before I knew his name was Jesus.
Me too.
And so I got to go into church to say, me and God, we're already, I'm in communion with him. Let me learn more about him. And so it was a little bit different of a beginning point back into Christianity. And I'm grateful for it because having that to lean back on, I'm less threatened by false teachings and hyper judgmental circles. And I'm not threatened by it because I know my connection with God is very real and I'm not threatened. Where do they connect? I'll tell you this. I think if you look at a pie chart with where you put your time, I have changed that so many times over the years. And the first time I wanted to shift it over to Christianity, it's because I was irritated with the 12 steps. I was irritated with some politics and some drama in the rooms. And I felt like, I'm getting really cleaned up. I'm making all right money now. Do I really need to associate that much with this? I started getting on a high horse. I started looking for an easier way of living. And some of the protocols that you see in church for here's what you need to do to be right with God, they looked a little easier. And there was kind of a part of me that started shifting towards that. And then my behaviors immediately brought me right back to recovery because I realized I've still got a thing that needs to be in check, and I need to be close to people that understand it to get my help. That's just me. I'm not saying that's true for anybody else. But that piece in our literature that warns us against floating away on a cloud of religious zeal, I've seen it happen a lot to where they go into church and they're like, church tells them, you don't have addiction, you just have a sin problem. They're like, cool. So I can use? Like, that's all they hear. And not the case for everybody, but I've seen enough people either relapse and die or go back out and stay miserably addicted in church, away from their help. So I don't want to be that, but I also want to be in church to find those people. I love coming across those gems. If I can interconnect these two worlds of the Beatitudes and the teachings of Jesus in the 12 steps and why they don't contradict one another. Even the language of higher power, how that's still biblical and it's still godly. So from a time perspective, more of my time right now goes towards recovery community and recovery meetings than it does church at this point in time. I like going weekly to church. I still give to a church on a weekly basis because I believe in what they do for the greater society. I can see the benefits in our own city. I believe I want to be a positive impact on society, and a good way to do that is to give to the people who are specialized in doing it. And then most of my service goes to NA. Here's why. I have tried shifting my service to church functions only. Mission trips, service positions, feeding the homeless and doing all of these things. And I'd find myself being another hand that was like every other hand. I had some talents. I had some things I brought to the table. But the impact was not the same as the lethal weapon I am in Narcotics Anonymous. Talking with people who are in the thick of it, that are shut out to God, that are gay, that are trans, that are just totally against ideas of Christianity. I've got access into these people's lives that I just don't get in the four walls of a traditional church. And God just kept putting that on my heart. Like, you think you're just going to run from what I have for you? Like, you're just going to go be another. I've got people for that. I put you here to tell my story of what I did in your life. You don't get to go recreate that somewhere else and talk about God cleaned me up and now I'm here in church all the time. That's not your story. He was very clear with me on that.
Dude, that's amazing.
So I hope that answers your question as to kind of where I think he wants me.
That's a great answer. And I think during that, I mean, astounded and more alike than I thought. I guess. You know, because I mean, we know of each other, but we don't know each other.
Yeah, we haven't really
Yeah.
gotten in the same circles.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, one, the relationship with God prior to Jesus, that's me. Like, literally, before I became a Christian, people would come to me and have their preachers meet me in coffee shops to come talk to me. And I would go, I don't understand. Either baptize me right now, or what are we talking about? You know, and I'm out of defiance. I read the Bible when I was really young, and then
yeah.
out of like other things, I'm very like, I know what's going on, you know, with Christianity. I just my hand was on the power of God, and you're telling me it's someone else, and I go, well, it feels pretty powerful. I mean, it eradicated addiction out of my life, and it's touched everybody's life that I've touched around me. I mean, what more do you want? You know, where I had to get was, I had some antagonists and not what's the word I'm looking for?
Rebellion?
No, I had some I had some agnostic ideas around Jesus, and some of those ideas were, I just didn't believe he was the only way to God. And, you know, I'm defiant and I'm human, and I go, well, what about an island that's never heard of Jesus? I mean, and then, you know, I know that God has grace over those situations. But then I go, well, I think that God's incredibly smart and way smarter than all of us. So, I mean, how do I know that Muslim isn't just another way, you know? So multi-pathway to God is what I really believed in. But where I had to get to was, I'm not God, and I'm willing to follow Jesus and figure that out. Instead of going, no, I'm not, you know. And it took me about 7 years to really go, I'm willing to follow Christ, and I'm willing to figure this out. What do I have to lose? You know, like you said, I'm in contact with God. I have that power in my life. So you said I'm more apt to not be fearful of like false teachings, because I know what's happening, you know? The same thing with me, kind of. It's like nothing's went, you know, awry, like with me following Jesus, you know? It just, I'm secure. I was secure already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it was a big change and shift for me. Honestly, weirdly, I told my friend this the other day, is like, ever since I gave my life to God or Jesus and got baptized, my life has went worse. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know if that's on purpose or, but it hasn't went, it's got, in some ways it's got worse, in some ways it's got better, but it's,
I can relate.
yeah, it's like, and I don't, you know, I can only see what's in front of me. You know, I don't know what's 10 years down the line, and, you know, and also I had the same feeling around, like serving in a 12-step versus serving somewhere else. It's like, I served at a church and helped like a plant church, a few, you know, and the way you spoke about lethal weapon and then being just someone in the crowd, you know, why I'm way more useful in like in the 10th step, and it, you know, in 10th step in AA, it talks about like learning how to be efficient and useful in our spiritual life. Like, so I don't know. I just didn't perceive you as, I don't know. I perceived you more as, more rigid, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. And
more, you came here with the Christianity first, or you do both together. And I knew you do both together, you know, but I didn't know it was, I didn't know you were as open-minded as you are. And there's a reason for you to be open-minded, and that you have purpose in the open-mindedness, you know.
I appreciate it. And Matt, honestly, if I were to change, if I could change it out of convenience, You know, there's a part of me that might,
Yeah.
because the alternative is more convenient.
It is, yes.
And again, he's got, you know, Grandma Rose and Auntie Shirley out there helping in these church functions. And they have an incredible place too. And I know some just units out there in the Christian community that are really crushing it. But he's very specific with who he wants to do what. I mean, if you read these stories about Moses and Joshua, like they were like, please, I don't want to do this. And these people are thick-headed and they're ignorant and they're stubborn. And God's like, I don't care. They're my people. This is what I have you to do. And I think maybe there was probably some self-reflection from Moses and Joshua that they saw themselves in the Israelites. And I get to be continuously reminded of the program. It's not a selfless, necessary thing that I do. I think I did it out of necessity, partly, and then partly out of conviction and love for God. But I've been humble enough where the whack-a-mole has gotten, like, it's gone on for so long where I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be just cleaned up and perfect. It's just not going to happen. I've got to stay in the world of reality of I'm going to remain sick, getting better my whole life. You know, I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah. I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could just, you know, coach my kid on big T-ball and go there on Thursday nights and go to church on Sunday and do a Bible study and just
Doesn't that sound magnificent?
Sounds boring as shit. but I mean, I wish I could do it, you know.
I'm so glad this hit me. I'm not kidding. 24 hours ago. This longing and yearning to serve the recovery community more. I don't know where it came from. It's funny we're talking about it because literally 24 hours ago. And to be honest, before I did this, I was thinking, you know, last night was New Year's. I've got a lot happening right now. Some good, some bad, some it is what it is. And I was like, man, I don't really have the energy. And then once we started talking, I was like, this is exactly what I need to be talking about. Yeah. A reminder of the most important thing in my life.
I know I'm better when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And recently I picked up more sponsees because I'm going through stuff in my life and it's heavy and, you know, literature states any trials and low spots, you know, pretty much you work with another alcoholic. That's the answer, you know. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I just want to be normal, you know. And I enjoy it once I'm there, you know, but you know, I know that I need to do it.
It's tough sometimes too, because like my wife wants me to be normal sometimes, you know. I still got to do all that, you know.
So every podcast we ask, so Powerful Beyond Measure is the title or the name of the podcast, but it comes from a poem called Our Deepest Fear. So we ask every guest, what is your deepest fear? When you answer the question, you'll say my deepest fear is, and then answer the question. And you have as much time as you want to answer the question.
Okay.
And then that'll be the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me think.
All right.
All right.
You
It's
sure?
going to be kind of cheesy.
That's all right.
But it's my deepest fear.
Okay.
My deepest fear is to be completely away from God